Hello champions and future champions, hello ChessMood family, GM Gabuzian is here with you, and in this video we are going to make the coverage for the daily lesson test answers of the month June. This position is the test for daily lesson Punish Early Queen Development. In this position, Black Queen is advanced to f6 square, and we're using the fact that now c7 square is gonna be unprotected once we're trading off this bishop. So white here plays knight to a3, knight g7, and easily accessing to c7 square. Just bishop takes b6, pawn takes, and knight goes to b5. c7 pawn is hanging, black couldn't be going king to d8, which is just terrible. If after bishop takes b6, black is playing knight takes f5, we also have bishop c7 move. So early advancement of black queen on f6 is getting punished in this example. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Blind Swine Mate. We learned in the daily that rooks on the 2nd or the 7th rank are going to be very strong, but now if black is deciding to take on e3 and white takes back, this spot is protected. For this reason, instead of taking here firstly, we are playing g4, distracting this bishop's attention. Bishop d1 and bishop takes g4 is the same, so better for white to capture the pawn, and now we play knight takes e3. Here, if white is going back, we're just taking the exchange and winning, but otherwise, after f takes e3, black is mating with rook takes g2, king h1, rook h2, king g1, rook b, g2. Blind Swine Mate is happening in this position. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the very interesting topic intermediate move. White, in this position, is using a tactical resource. After rook takes c7, queen c7, white plays knight g4, using the fact that queen is hanging now, so it means black cannot be taking the knight. Only move black can be trying here is queen takes g3. But the thing is now we have knight f6 check. And after king g7, the punchline of this test position is knight h5, intermediate move. Before taking on g3, we're saving our knight and just clearly staying with an extra piece, guys. Now, let's go ahead to see our next position. In this exciting position, it's white to move, and this is the test for Blackburn's mate daily lesson. If you remember, in that daily we were mating with bishops and the knight. This means we don't need our queen, let's get rid of it. Now white plays queen takes h5, pawn takes, otherwise white is staying with an extra piece, and bishop f6 check. Only move king g8, and now knight g5. Our threat is bishop takes h7 checkmate. King will be not able to run away, as well black is not able to prevent this threat, so checkmate is unavoidable. Only thing black can do is try bishop h2 check, king h1, and just now give up, since on the next move white is mating. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is the test position, guys, for a daily lesson knight e5 or knight takes e4 tactic, after which something on h5 or h4 is hanging. In this position, if you are trying to play knight takes e4 for black, it's a huge mistake. Of course, after d takes e4, black stays with an extra pawn after bishop takes h4. But the thing is now that after knight e4, white is using the fact that bishop on a2 is strong on this diagonal and is pinning this pawn. So now white with the tempo plays knight g6, attacking the rook, the bishop, and as well the knight now is under attack. If now black tries to keep the rook playing rook e8, white just takes on e4, taking the piece, and still there is a pin, so this knight cannot be taken. And if after knight g6 black just goes back, white takes on f8, takes, plays f4, and gets a big advantage due to an extra exchange. So in this example, the beginning knight e4 move was a mistake. Sometimes this tactic works, but we always need to take care of our opponent counter ideas against this tactic, guys. Let's now go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson killer pin. Now it's white to move. We need to make sure that this rook will never be able to move, and as well black cannot get closer with the king, going let's say to h6. For example, if now white makes a mistake and goes h4, it's gonna be even losing for white, since After h5, g4, black is gonna be able to play king h6. And after g5, black takes, and this position is gonna be suddenly winning for black. King is gonna be too activated, and black pushes the pawns all over the board, so white is not able to hold this pressure. For this reason, h4 at the beginning is a huge mistake, but luckily white is having g4 move, guys. The thing is now black cannot be taking since there is a pin. If black now tries to play h5, we just go g5, and later on black is getting in a zook swing. We're just waiting with our bishop on this diagonal, making moves with the king, and once black moves are expired, black will have to move the king and give away the rook. The same actually is happening when after g4, black goes c5. Now we're just going h4, threatening to play h5. Black goes c4, bishop c2, h5 and g5. Again, black is out of the moves. After c3, we just go king f2, and once black king is moving, we're just taking the rook and winning the game. So killer pin is killing opponent this time, guys. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for a daily lesson invisible in Passant. It's white to move. We have some options to capture these bishops. If now we make a mistake and play b3, black has c3. You may say, but what if now we go b4? The thing is now black is able to take, and after takes, play rook b5, pinning this pawn and taking it, so we cannot take the bishop. For this reason, instead of beginning b3, we are just playing with b4 move at the beginning. Now the difference is the following: black is not having c3 move, only choice is to take it, and now already we are going c4, which is making our idea to work out. Bishop and rook are under attack, so we're winning the piece and winning the game. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson using pawn majority in the center. As you know, we're trying to build a good pawn chain and advance, so here white makes a very logical move and just goes f3, preparing e4 advancement. After knight b3, we're just even ignoring the fact that our pawn on a4 is hanging. We just push e4. Queen takes a4, white goes e5. And of course, after knight d7, white is slowly preparing for the pawn advancement on the f file. But we have a big issue now if we play f4 right away. Black is using the fact that our queen is hanging and goes knight bc5. This means we cannot be taking the knight since queen is under attack. Of course, if we trade off the queens, it's gonna be terrible since we already sacrificed a pawn for the attack, and once queens are traded off, attack is not gonna be so strong. For this reason, we are trying to keep the queen now, maybe queen to d2, but then black goes knight to d3. This knight is staying extremely strong. Meanwhile, if after knight d7 we go queen f2 firstly, this knight has no chances to get to this square, so we're pushing on the next move. After g6, playing f4, preparing f5. If black plays f5, we're taking, and after takes, play f5 on our own. White is getting a winning advantage due to active heavy pieces on the king side and weakened position of black king, guys. Let's now go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Stop Development of Bishop f8. It's really obvious that white now is just trying to prevent this bishop from developing and just goes queen to g5. Very simple but at the same time powerful tool. Now we're controlling the square so bishop cannot be moving. If now black goes h6, we have a very nice tactic, guys. We take bishop f6 using the fact that after takes and pawn takes g5, rook d8 is a checkmate. After queen g5, if black goes rook d5, the same is happening. Again, bishop takes f6 and same checkmate is available. After queen g5, black can try to go queen d5, but now we're just playing knight e5, keeping our queen. h6 and queen g3, again keeping queen on the right place. After queen e4 here, white goes bishop b6, rook d5, rook e1. Black will not be able to survive this for a long time. And the issue is king in the center and undeveloped kingside pieces. After queen f5, we eventually go for knight c4, threatening to go knight e3, and as well having another hidden threat, which happens after queen g4 and queen b8 check. Now we are just killing opponent's king in this position, guys. So with the beginning queen g5 move, white is preventing bishop from development and winning this game. Let's go ahead to see the next one. Dear chess lovers, this is a test position for the daily lesson strange move in the opening. Black here played f5. Let's understand the issue of this move. The biggest issue is the e5 square, since now it's becoming a future outpost for our knight. For example, if we now decide to play e5, it's still doable, but we are not having this square for our knight. For example, after f5 we can try to play better. We can take on f5. Actually, takes on d5 is the same, since queen takes d5 would be terrible, so it takes f5 and just go knight f3. Having in our mind to castle and use this e5 outpost. Meanwhile, black is not making much value out of these pawns. e5 is going to be a really good square for us. So once your opponent is making a very strange opening move, you can always try to determine what the negative side of this move is and try to turn it to your favor. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Greco made. As you know, in this mating pattern we're using the rook and the bishop in order to kill opponent's king. Now, if we try to play queen takes g6 and pawn takes bishop takes b6 with an idea to play rook h3 mate, black can be preventing it. Black can now go rook to e5 and after rook h3 check, just play rook to h5, preventing the checkmate. For this reason, instead of playing queen g6 at the beginning, we are starting with bishop takes b6. Now black has to take, otherwise they are losing a piece, and after rook b6, now queen g6. And after pawn takes, rook h3, bishop h4 and rook h4, Greco's mate is happening in this position, guys. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson pawn sacrifice to activate the bishop. And you have got a question here, what would you do if it's white to move and what would you do if it's black turn? For example, if now it's black turn, black just goes bishop b6 and gets this monster bishop on this diagonal. Followed by rook f8, it's gonna be a huge pressure on f2 pawn. But it was not black to move in this position. And it's white turn. Here just playing c5. Activating this passive guy on f1 square. If here black plays pawn takes c5, we go also rook d5, sacrificing the second pawn, and after takes queen takes d5, going bishop g2. Even though white sacrificed few pawns, gonna be taking one of them back, and look at this poor bishop limited by so many pawns. Meanwhile, this guy is a big monster, followed by e4 square. And if after c5 black plays a little more logical queen takes c5, now white just takes and plays bishop b5. Even though white sacrificed the pawn again, bishop is getting activated and gives nice chances for white to play. So let's now go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Balestra mate. This is one of my favorite topics because I truly enjoy when queen and bishop are mating opponent's king. Now, it would be nice if white gets a chance to play queen e6 check and bishop b6 mate, but there is a queen on g4. So before doing this, white plays very strong bishop f5 with a tempo, attacking the queen and covering this diagonal. So now black has to take, otherwise queen is just gonna be lost, but now queen e6 move is available, and after king d8, bishop b6 is mating. I hope you solved this beautiful example correctly, and let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for exchange sacrifice daily lesson. Right now it's black to move, and we're trying to get a game on the queen side, but white bishop on c2 is preventing everything. Ignoring this bishop's existence, we just go rook to b3. Black now is threatening knight b5 and take this pawn. White has to take, but now after a takes b3, black is getting this monster pawn chain. Pawn on a3 is most probably gonna be lost, and once black is taking this, advancing b5, b4 will be creating two connected passed pawns on the queen side, which is gonna be more than enough to win this game. After queen b2, black goes bishop e7, just aiming for this square. e4 square is very badly under control, and white cannot be going e4 without losing material. That actually happens, white tries to get a game, but it's lost after e4, takes and knight e4. Of course, if white gives back the exchange, it's to our favor, otherwise we're just capturing this pawn and winning on the queen side. With a very logical rook b3 exchange sacrifice, black instantly obtains a winning setup. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson, the Morphy mate. A very beautiful mating idea in this position is available. But if we firstly begin with queen g4 check, with an intention after takes, play rook g5, and king h8, bishop f6 mate, we are going to be failing, since after queen g4 and takes, rook g5, black has bishop g6 move, just covering from this checkmate. For this reason, before going for queen g4, white is playing rook 1 takes e4. We need to keep this rook and we need to destroy this bishop. Right now, black has no intermediate moves, and once black takes on e4, in order not to stay without a piece, queen g4 is already mating. So after takes, rook g5 and king h8, bishop f6 is bringing us to a Morphy mate position. Let's now go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Anderssen's mate. It's white to move, and if you remember in Anderssen's mate, we're mating with the rook and the pawns. Here, if white decides to take on g7, in order after knight f3 to play e takes f6, and later on mate through h8 square, black can be playing now bishop takes g7, queen h8, king f8, and black is clearly keeping the piece advantage, winning this game. For this reason, instead of beginning h takes g7 mistake, we are playing with e takes f6. Now, if pawn takes f6, we go queen h4, and queen takes f6 is unstoppable. White is winning with the support of this pawn. Otherwise, after e takes f6, if black goes knight f3, we just take pawn takes g7. Knight takes h2, rook takes h2. And checkmate through h8 square is just unavoidable, guys. So white is winning again. Let's now go ahead to see the next example. This is a test position for the daily lesson the hawk mate. It's black to move. If you remember, in this daily we're mating with the rook and the knight. So now we're beginning with bishop c4 check. Of course, white has to take, otherwise white is losing a lot of pieces. And rook c4 we play rook d2 check, taking king to f3. Now, if we get rid of this rook and knight, both are protecting this square. Rook f2 would be a checkmate. Easy. We just play queen takes d1. Rook takes d1 and rook f2 checkmate. Black is winning. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Vukovic mate. It's white to move and we're almost getting mated here. But luckily we also have a mating idea here and we're gonna be faster, guys. So here white plays with bishop e5 check, rook takes e5. Now we need to put our knight on f6 with a tempo. This means we don't need our queen. Queen takes g8, king takes and knight f6 check. Now if black goes king h8, it's rook h7 checkmate. Or if here black goes king to f8, it's rook to f7 checkmate again. So Vukovic mate is happening in this position. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for Mayet mate daily lesson. If you remember, in this mating pattern we're using the rook and the bishop. In order to make it real, black plays with bishop b4 tempo, attacking the queen. So white has few moves with the queen, let's say queen to a7. And now mate is gonna be happening. Queen f1 check, king takes f1 and rook e1 check. Rook is sealing this king here and just killing it. Let's now go ahead to see the next position. This is a test position, guys, for the daily lesson Secret Weapon in SLP, which was about stalemate. Here, black is absolutely winning, but by accident black played here queen takes g3, ignoring the defensive idea of white. Now white just goes queen to g8 check. Of course, if black goes king h6, black is going to be the side who will be mated after queen h8, so black has to take. And now suddenly rook g7. The thing is now, if black takes back with the queen, rook is taking square on h2, queen is taking square on g1, g2 is taken by all of black pieces and this knight is blocking the pawn, so white is out of the moves. After rook g7, the same is happening if black takes with the king, so the same stalemate. And now, in this position, after king f8, white is just chasing black king. Rook f7, king e8, rook e7, king d8, rook d7. Black has no way to escape and suddenly your unexpected stalemate is saving white's position. This was taken out of a real game. Let's now go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Invisible Breakthrough. If you remember during the daily I said that if white managed to close the position and consolidate it, it may be good. But we're using the fact these pawns are too much advanced and the white king is weakened and we're just going e5. The thing is now that d takes e5, we play knight takes e5. And f takes e5 is not possible since we have queen e5. It's a double attack. We're attacking the rook and threatening queen h2 mate. This is the issue of having pawn too much advanced. Otherwise, after knight takes e5, black is opening the d file and queen d4, just going bishop to b8 is bringing black a very nice position. With this invisible breakthrough, black opens up position when white king is weakened. Obviously, it's to our big favor. Queen c3, rook d3, queen c2 and knight f7. Again, now white is under a knight g5 and queen takes b4 threat and having a very difficult times. Probably white is gonna be lost as it happened in this game. Let's now go ahead to see the next example. This is the test position for the daily lesson right capturing. Now white has a choice of deciding how to play. If we just play c takes d5, later on, one day black will be playing f5, trading off these pawns, getting absolutely similar pawn structure and obviously no reasons for white to have advantage. Meanwhile, if in this position white decides to take with the e-pawn, white suddenly gets a pawn majority on the queen side, 5 versus 4. Meanwhile, this doubled pawn on the f-file doesn't make sense. White will be able to create slowly again with b4 and c5, and as well this pawn will be an easier target of an attack. White can try to go bishop a5, b4, and either way pawn majority on the queen side makes white's position to be better. White will have a very nice game. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson the problematic bishop on g6, g3 or b3 and b6. Now it's white to move and we're going to make pressure on this guy. We begin with c3, bishop c5, b4. If now black goes b5, we just can go back and capture this pawn since bishop is under attack now as well. And after b4, if black goes bishop b6, we're just playing now with a4. The thing is now, if black is going with a6, we're gonna be able to take on b6 and spoil the pawn structure. Takes, and now black is having big issues. The same is actually happening if after a4 black goes c6, we're still able to take and play bishop e3, and again this pawn is a huge weakness, we have bishop pair advantage. For this reason, we're playing with c4 and killing this bishop, guys. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson Desperado. Now it's black to move, and we're taking on e4. If white takes back, we take on h4, bishop f4 is a threat, knight d6, pawn takes, bishop is under attack, pawns are bad, we have an extra pawn. Great advantage. After knight e4, if white tries to take bishop d8, this is even worse for white, since now we have knight takes d2. If white takes back on d2, we just take on d8 and we're getting a pawn up position. Otherwise, after bishop c7 here, white is suddenly getting a big unexpected shot. Bishop takes h2. Super move. We are gonna be giving this bishop away either way. But before doing this and taking bishop on c4, we just decided to take this pawn. Now, if white takes on d2, we just take back on c7. Or here, if white takes on h2, we just take knight c4. With this crazy bishop h2 move, black is winning a pawn, guys. So this was the topic of Desperado. When piece, which is already gonna be taken, sacrifices itself and brings more damage to opponent's position. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson passed pawn. Of course, white is a very strong guy here and is just deciding to advance, going a5. But after queen g4, before advancing the pawn farther with a6, white is just going king g2 and trying to prevent all counterplay abilities of opponent. There was some kind of threat with g5 move, later on playing h4, there were several options. Just now, with king g2, white is facing all of these moves, and now after rook f7 and a6, just getting a winning position. Bishop a8 and rook c3. Using the fact that advanced pawn is also limiting this bishop, white is just threatening to go rook c8 and take it, and after rook f8 and a7, white is absolutely winning, guys. Black has no moves, we're slowly going to improve and use the advantage of this pawn. Let's go ahead to see the next one. As in the previous position, we were already having the passed pawn, this time we are trying to create it. This is a test position for the daily lesson, creating the passed pawn. It's white to move, here white played queen b5, and white missed a3 move in this position. The thing is now, guys, that after takes, we're just going c3. Even though black now sacrificed a pawn, we have a monster guy here, which is much more valuable than these two pawns together. If white goes knight e1, we just go rook cd8, trading of the rook and activating ours through the d file. Rook takes d8, rook takes d8. Or if after c3 white goes queen d3, we're actually doing the same. Rook cd8, just getting rid of this active rook, keeping the passive one, and after takes queen c2. And now rook b8, going for b2 square, black is getting a winning position because of the created passed pawn. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson. The bishop is still in quarantine. It's white to move, guys, and the play is really very simple. We just go c5, attacking the bishop, only square is bishop b8, otherwise black is missing a piece, bishop b8 and d6, and now both of black bishops are staying on a quarantine. One is limited by their own pawns, another one is limited by the white pawn chain. So with this simple maneuver, white gets absolutely winning position. After knight d5, knight takes, pawn takes f3, and white is winning. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a continuation of the previous daily lesson, pawn sacrifice to quarantine opponent's bishop, guys. So here white can be playing with c5 check, but it's not gonna be so good after king h8, b6, takes, and now black plays very smart b5 move, not allowing white to play knight b5 and seal this bishop. After takes and bishop d4, position is super messy. Black has bishop pair and also passed pawn on the a file. For this reason, before beginning with c5, we are playing right now b6 move, using the fact that if black takes with the bishop, c5 is taking this guy, so it's not an option. Or if after b6, black is trying to go bishop to b8, we take on c7, takes, and actually we're good to take the pawn on b7, getting this monster square. So again good for white. After b6, black can try to take with a pawn, and with an intention to play b5, but the problem is now we are playing knight to b5. If bishop takes, we take with a pawn, this guy is dead, we just put our knight on d5. Otherwise, after knight b5 if black goes bishop b8, we go knight to d5. Same story here. This bishop is just destroyed, so white is going to be playing with an extra piece. And obviously monster knights in the center, guys. Let's go ahead to see the next one. This is a test position for the daily lesson queen versus pawns. As we know, when the pawn is at the edge of the board, usually it's a draw if king is nearby and pawn is so much advanced. But there is a big difference. Black has a pawn on a4, so white can be turning it to our favor. Queen g5 check, king f2 queen f4, king g2 queen g4, king f2 queen h3, king g1 queen g3. And this is the reason why usually it's a draw when there is no other pawn, since black plays king h1 and white has no improvements. If we try to go queen f2 and make a mate, it's a stalemate. But now we're using the existence of this pawn, guys. We go king b4, allowing a3. Now white is getting a chance to win a tempo, playing queen f2, and since there is a pawn, it's not a stalemate. And as well, after a2, white is just mating with queen f1. So this position was winning, guys. Let's go ahead to see the next one. And dear champions, now we're doing the last one. So this is the test position for daily lesson Damiano's mate. As you know, we're trying to bring our queen to the required h7 square. But if we now try to play rook h8, king h8, rook h1, king g8, rook h8, takes and again queen h1, black now has very simple queen h6, staying with a huge material advantage. So, before going for this check, we are preparing this. White here plays bishop h7 check, king h8, and bishop g6 check, guys. Now we're covering this 6th rank and queen cannot go to h6 square. And after king g8, we're just mating with rook h8, takes rook h1, king g8, rook h8, takes queen h1 check again. And after king g8, queen h7 mate. So we're getting Damiano's mate in this position. As I mentioned, guys, this was the last example of our June month coverage. I hope you liked it. Nxe5 was here with you. Thank you for subscriptions, likes, and sharing this video with your friends. We appreciate it a lot. See you next time during our next daily lessons.